Alright, I haven't done one of these in a while, but this is a vulnerability series video, and this one tonight is going to be about my little brother Brandon. I've always, I think since 8th grade, called him Chubbs. He's had big cheeks and a little body, skinny body for a long time. He's kind of lost the cheeks for now. I think he'll get them back later on in life, but luckily the name Chubbs has stuck. A few ways that I know that it's permanent is that our grandma French, she one time asked me, "So how's Chubbs doing?" It's like, that's a big win for me. Anyway, I've got a few things that I just wanted to share before I present this video that I worked on actually a couple months back. This Brandon has he's kind of a funny character. When he was growing up, he was just a super rowdy little kid. He was constantly jumping on things, screaming and yelling. He just had high energy, high intensity. He was also a really curious kid. We would have so much fun going out into the woods and playing in the woods nearby our house. We had our neighbor kids, neighbor friends, Alan and Daniel. They had machetes and hatchets and axes, and we had knives and stuff, and we'd all go down in the woods and just wreak havoc on the woods out there, building forts and pretending that we were warriors or characters from Dragon Ball Z or whatever it was. It was always a lot of fun. He's always been my accomplice in things. We would frequently get in trouble together. One of the things that we did I think it was a Sunday afternoon after church, we got home, living in Atlanta, Georgia, or Marietta. We had a lot of red clay in our yard. In our backyard had an exposed patch of dirt that we would just go in and kind of make stuff and try and just get dirty, I guess. One time while we were back there, we decided to turn on the water hose and get it nice and muddy, and promptly had a mud fight at the age of 8 and 4, I think, maybe somewhere around their ballpark. I'm 4 years older than him, and yeah, we totally just wrecked each other. And also our house, there were little mud pie clumps just stuck to the house that I think stained permanently the wood paneling. But we got a pretty sweet picture where we had to come around to the front of the house and knock on the door and be like, hey Mom, we're not really sure what to do at this point. We're covered in mud, and we want to come inside, and so we got in a little bit of trouble for that. But he's a really what's the word? What's a good word? Conniving, I think, is actually a really good word. And sly. Maybe sly is a better word. I think sly is more likable than conniving. But anyway, so this I think this story, this is one of two stories that really, if you don't know anything about Brandon, these two stories indicate a huge portion of his personality. So the first one is when we lived in Georgia, we had in our neighborhood this trail that would go kind of follow along the back of houses that were nearby, and we would be able to go kind of from one part of the neighborhood to the other part of the neighborhood using this trail. And it felt kind of like cool and like a secret for us, and like it was our special trail or something. And we would always kind of pretend we were doing like cops and robbers or cowboys and Indians or like things like that back there in that trail. And one of the things that we like to do is there was one of our neighbors had a husky that had these just like gorgeous blue eyes and really beautiful soft fur. It was very friendly and just loved us, and whenever we would kind of play these games and be these fictional characters, we would pretend that this was our wolf dog, and so we'd go back to that area and kind of play out the scene of like us getting attacked and then calling on the dog like come save us or whatever was going on. But we loved to go back and visit that dog, and there was one day where on our way back there, the neighborhood bully, and he's just a couple of years older than me, he started following us. He saw us and he started following us, and we were yelling out to him, stop following us, stop following us, Andrew, leave us alone, and he just kept on trailing us, and eventually we got to where the dog was, and we were just telling him, leave us alone. And he wasn't necessarily a big bully all the time. It was just, we also just thought he was just kind of mean, so we didn't want to hang out with him. He crouched down to pet the dog, Andrew did, to pet the dog through the fence, and while he's crouched down petting the dog, Brandon, of his own volition, gets this incredible idea and just immediately acts on it. As like a 3 or 4 year old, he pulls down his pants and he starts peeing on Andrew's back. And the thing that I love the most about this is the position that I was in. It was Andrew, Brandon, and then myself. And all I could see was Brandon turned around, smiling at me with the biggest grin on his face, and he totally knew what he was doing was awesome and hilarious and kind of terrible for Andrew anyway. And he peed right on Andrew's back, and once Andrew realized, it's body temperature, so he kind of took him a second to realize that he was getting whizzed on. He got up and he kind of yelled and he just sprinted home. And it was amazing. Chubbs was just crying, laughing the whole time, like hysterical laughing. Couldn't contain him. I was dying too. I couldn't believe that he would do that. So yeah, that's one of my favorite stories about Brandon. So that depicts kind of one side of him. Anyway, the other one is a lot more sentimental, and especially for my relationship with him. He's always had a really soft heart and a really good heart. He's in our family, he's the youngest of the 6 of us altogether, and we kind of call him the golden child or the golden boy or whatever growing up, because he was such a good kid and just really sweet. So when I was in high school, I moved out of my house, or my parents' house, because of a big argument that I had with my mom and my stepdad, and really struggled with this phase of my life. It was while I was in my senior year of high school, and I remember the time that I left, I was really upset and very heated. And I kept on having this like sorrow of, man, I really miss Brandon, and I feel like I abandoned him. And that was one thing that kept on kind of eating at me as time went on. And I never, still to this day, I think my pride got the best of me, and I didn't move back in with them to finish out the year, but I ended up just kind of separating my life from them, and it was, that was the one major regret that I have, is that I abandoned my little brother, and it really broke my heart and left me very conflicted at a time where I was super confused at what was going on in my life. And anyway, when that happened, I was kind of expecting there to be, um, kind of maybe just a major disappointment in me from my little brother, and I know that it certainly had a negative impact on him, to some degree. But as I went off to college and kind of lived my own life up at college, I didn't maintain a good relationship with my mom and my stepdad, and consequently, my little brother. And um, yeah, when I started to turn my life around after this period of about 4 years, from the time that I moved out, to 4 years later, and trying to get my act together, I had a big change of heart, and I remember thinking, I wonder if Brandon will forgive me for, just being, um, such a terrible big brother. And there was a day where we were at church, and he got up and bore his testimony, in front of an audience, saying, I'm so grateful that this day has finally come, something I've been praying for a long time, and that my and I knew that he was specifically talking about, me having this big change in my life, and turning it around. And he was nothing but loving, to me throughout that entire process. And I always kind of expected that he'd be, upset or, mad even. But no, he just had a good heart, and he loved me so much. I mean, it really still to this day kind of boggles my mind. But anyway, he's a really good guy. A few of the cool things that I've gotten to do with him, Brandon and myself, one summer we painted my dad's, and my stepmom Nancy's, house. We got to do that for 2 weeks, and it was a terrible experience, in the sense that things just didn't work out well. We got the house painted. It took forever. We learned lots of lessons of what not to do, and we had a great time bonding together through that process. One of the other things we've gotten to do, we lived in Tennessee together at my papa's house in Sevierville, Pigeon Forge area, and we both had, jobs working there in town during the summer. We got to do, work as servers at an Italian restaurant, and together called Johnny Carino's, and it was a lot of fun working there together. Everyone loved him. He was just such a friendly guy, lighthearted, but always sarcastic a little bit too, and everyone just adored Brandon. And it's funny because I started working there a month after he had already been working there, so I kind of come in as this older brother, and just trying to pick up a sense of how everybody feels about him. And it was obvious that I had a big pair of shoes to fill, to try and not compete, but everyone loved Chubbs. So one of the cool things is I introduced myself to some of the guys there. A lot of them were from Guatemala, and they said, I introduced myself as Chase. They heard it as cheese, and so they said, cheese, queso. And once they realized queso, they just busted out laughing, all of them. And so that's the nickname that I had for that summer. And my Chubbs, he had the nickname, Hermano de Queso, also known as leche, or milk. So a lot of people called him leche a lot of during that summer. That's pretty fun. We got to do some really cool stuff there in Tennessee that summer for those few months. And even just living with Papa and helping him out, that was so much fun. Brandon's done a lot of other cool things for me. He's always had my back, looking out for me, and trying to find ways to serve, even even when I don't deserve it. It's incredible. But he let's see. Yeah, 2 years ago, he took me on a trip to California to just go have a surf trip together. It was so much fun just going out, going surfing. I got thrashed by the waves repeatedly. He caught a few, but I think he also took a beating. But we had so much fun just out there, trying and swimming around and skimboarding, surfing, and just going out to eat and having fun. He did that for me actually after I was going through this really hard time and this big transition in my life, and it was his Christmas gift to me was to take me on this trip, and it really meant a lot to be able to spend that time one-on-one with his brothers together like that. That was really cool. Yeah, and he's just constantly doing cool things for everybody. I've been talking a lot about him, but I love Brandon, and you know, if you're watching Chubbs, I love you. I love you so much. You've been the best little brother anybody could ever ask for. You've always had my back. You've always put me first before you, and served me selflessly, and have made a lot of sacrifices for me. And I just think the world of you. Yeah, I think you're a fun guy. You're great to hang out with, and always so lighthearted and silly. But I really do appreciate that Christ-like part of you that's just so charitable and giving, and yeah, I'm excited for your future, to see what kind of awesome things you end up doing with your life, and even especially for the day that you get married and be able to start to have your own family. I look forward to that day for you. But I love you, Brandon.
Hey!